like each episode, like, can you give us a bit of a rundown of how you determined what we were gonna, what you were gonna present each time? Because was it intuitive? Was there kind of like a general theme that you were building on, or yeah, like what
Yeah, it's a really good
did you
question. To be honest,
divine?
it was a it was a combination of the two. It was sort of what I was seeing play out around me, not only in my life but in other people's lives, but intuitively picking up on what would be a good topic right now to talk to. So yeah, it was a combination of both, to be honest.
Yeah, cool. And I found that like there were certainly some episodes that really resonated for me. What I loved about them all is that there were practical applications, that things that we could integrate into our everyday. I have to put my hand up and declare that I have not been great at at the integration. What I found, my own personal experience, was that month to month, as I heard new things, I would kind of drop off one thing and move on to the next. And I guess that's life a lot of the time. And
And
finding,
it's actually very natural too, especially
yeah.
when you're finding new tools, new approaches to something, because everyone has their own little preferences. So really it's about being aware what's available to you that you might access, once in a while. And if you've got the idea, if you've got the how to work with a new tool and it's in your, let's call it, a back pocket, something may come up in a month, 2 months, something, I just remember there's a tip or there's a procedure or an approach to something that this is a great opportunity to work with that. And I think that's really important, because we could be overwhelmed with all the different tips and tools that we've talked to over the last 12 months. And really it's like, well, just be aware of what's available to you, test them. Hopefully you've tested them along the way. And I've mentioned before, the more you work with something, the more it works for you. It's like going to the gym and, working your muscles, So really, I encourage people, if you haven't listened to a podcast or any of the podcasts and you've stumbled along this one, go back to them. You might find one that draws your attention, and then maybe you just focus in on that. But over time, it's worth going back and listening to different ones, and then you've got some extra tools you can work with moving forward.
And let's not forget that the Transference Healing book, right? Beyond Doorways. You've referenced it many times. We can get that book direct from you. Your information's all in our guest directory. And that has references to all of the things that you've covered this last 12 months.
Absolutely. If there was one transference healing tool, I would say go out and get this publication. Is the Beyond Always book. And you might have noticed more recently, Nadine, that we've now just launched the ebook version.
Yes, I did.
Right. So absolutely. So during the year, we've touched on key topics that are in essence everything we teach in transference healing, concepts, principles, and so forth. You could go to the book and really dig deep and read deeper knowledge and understanding of the topics we've covered. And that in part was a big intention of mine. So yes, thanks for referencing that.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, it's a great book, and as I said, I think it's like, let's call it the companion guide to universal living, right? So you can listen if you have the book, you can listen to the podcast episode, then you can go to the book and you can read about that particular topic in the book. They support one another. Sometimes I certainly find that I often resonate more by hearing someone talk about it, because it's lived experience. It helps to sort of have that integration a little bit more than sometimes just reading it off the page. So definitely a helpful tool to have in the kit. All right. So what we're going to do, Our goal today is to very quickly mention each of the episodes in sequence. And Laverne, you're gonna. The goal is to do a brief summary of each one, and I guess why someone might find this particular topic important. So we're going
Yeah.
all the way back to January. This one actually resonated a lot for me because the episode was the Holy Grail of Healing, Chiron in Aries. Chiron return happens around the age of 50, 51. I'm in my Chiron return at the moment, and my Chiron is in Aries. So, yeah, this one had significance for me. Do you want to give us a quick summary of what Chiron is and what it means?
Yeah, I'm going to take a bit of a first role in this. So imagine you know what your greatest strength is, but you know also what your greatest vulnerability is, what your Achilles heel. You know, the aspect of self that prevents you from moving forward in an area of your life, right? That stops you from maybe accepting an opportunity that might have taken you on a path, a more synchronistic path of your personal development and spiritual growth. So moving from what can feel like struggle and stagnation, not moving forward in your life, and being able to recognize your Chiron wounding, and paying attention that as it arises, you have the tools available to you to respond and start dissolving your Chiron wounding in the moment, right? So when we talked to this, it was really to bring people's attention to, everyone's got a Chiron. It's based on their birth date. And on that, you can go away and find out what your Chiron wounding is and start working with that, right? So really that was the intention, to bring that to people's attention. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
should we move on to? I know. I'm just going.
And so just quickly, in the
Perfect.
Beyond the Ways book,
Yes, all of the dates.
6, it really talks to each Chiron in detail. It provides invocations, energy sessions, and ways to work with your Chiron.
Perfect. Excellent. Part 2, living a fifth dimensional reality. I love this one as well, actually, because it's, well, I'm going to hand over to you. I'm not going to say anymore. But I did.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. I got a real hit to talk to this, and really it explored humanity's shift into the fifth dimension, which when we talked about that, we were saying it's really about moving into a heart-centered reality where intuition and conscious creation replace fear-based patterns, right? So it's about the evolution of our process, inviting us to align to the Earth's ascending energy and us connecting with our higher self, empowering our personal and collective transformation.
Brilliant. Loved it. And I think at the beginning of that conversation, we would just there's proof for this. It's not just woo woo. Like, science is showing this whole quantum reality is real. And so it's about how we can move into that more.
And just 3 key takeaways from that was really, how can we embrace the shift that's going on, whether we like it or not? We provided some practical fifth dimensional living type examples and how we can align to all the changes that are going on. And importantly, we talked about that higher connection, connecting up more. So those were the 3 key things. And obviously we went into quite a lot of detail around that.
Great. Next one was another one that really resonated with me. So far, they all have. Dragon power. Embracing dragon power. This one, I think, because when we did some work together in transference healing, you ran some energy on me, and dragon power came up multiple times. So obviously that's the main reason that it resonated, and to hear more about it. And the practice was cool.
Yeah. So within that podcast, we showed what the Dragon Power technology is, how you can work with it, and we demonstrate that it's a really straightforward practice that anyone can work with. But, Dragon Power is an extraordinary energetic practice that bridges ancient wisdom with modern empowerment. And it's rooted in ancient teachings or sacred teachings of Lemurian times and Merlin technology, and even through to Kuan Yin. And I think we reference that, the truest martial art practice tapped into this type of technology. So, and just to finish, really to say, we talk to how the practice can create, replenishment, how we can restore and revitalize our energies, and how this particular procedure can create that. We talked about cultivating protection and harmony, and how that procedure works with that. And how do we foster more personal and spiritual transformation, and how Dragon Power works with that.
Cool. Brilliant. Loved it. Transcending emotional barriers for a journey of self-healing. That was part 4. What can you tell us about that one, Laverne?
So it was really about breaking free of emotional cycles, if you remember, and tools for empowerment and awakening. So we know that our emotions shape every aspect of our life, but unresolved wounds, whether from childhood, recent experience, or even past life, can trap us in a repetitive loop of pain, right? So we talked about the emotional Ferris wheel that limits our growth and holding us back from our true potential. So podcast 4 was really about exploring practical strategies to break free from these patterns and create lasting change.
Yeah, I love it. It's really interesting because there can be so many layers, and they can be quite, I don't know if pervasive is the right word, where you don't even, like, you think that you're working on a certain amount of emotional barriers because they're the ones that are most apparent, but then, well, this is my experience, you realize that there's layers.
Exactly.
So yeah, very valuable, very valuable.
Yeah.
Number 5. So that was May, weaving the essence of spirituality into the fabric of everyday life. And I loved this one as well. So simple, but like so powerful.
Look, they're all my favorites, but I liked this one because what this podcast offered was a global vision of what spirituality can look like when we are grounded, when we ground it in everyday life. So it was a favorite of mine because this awakening that we're all going through doesn't rely on religious affiliation or elaborate rituals. And for many, many modern day individuals navigating work, family, with personal growth, spirituality in the 21st century could simply be about discovering simple, universal principles that bring balance, connection, inner peace to our lives. And so really we talk to this, and at the heart of spirituality, it's not about religion, it's not about politics, and it's definitely not about gender. It's about transcending boundaries, inviting us to explore a state of unity grounded in shared human experiences like compassion and kindness and love. So this was a favorite and a personal focus for me.
Yeah.
And so I felt that the intention of this podcast was about us reimagining what spirituality together can look like, not something that has to follow, a religion, so to speak, or a certain rigid process. So something that we can follow, but also something that we can live every day. And I think that was why I like this one so much.
Yeah, I really I agree with that. It's like and like the simplicity of it is starting with just like really easy practices, like saying thank you to someone, looking someone in the eye at the supermarket, taking the time to offer help, ringing a loved one to let them know that you're thinking of them, those kind of things that are simple, everyday practices that can really lift our energy and weave spirituality into our everyday lives. Perfect. Loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, number 6. Mastering structural and psychological balance, aligning with Earth's changes for ascension. This one was there was a practice of the left and
Earth and body magnetic grid alignment,
yes.
which
But this was a
looked
bit deeper, a bit more practice required for this one.
Yeah, and the Earth and body magnetic grid alignment, we did provide a recording how to work with it. It can look a bit technical to begin with, but this one is really powerful. And I think at the time I felt like touching on this one because I was working with it a lot in my own life. And really, it supports mastering structural and psychological balance and keeping in alignment with the earth changes that are going on. Because in this podcast, we talked about how with the earth's shift into the 5th dimensional frequency, humanity is undergoing real profound change. And we're all required to recalibrate our bodies, mind, and spirit and kind of stay in alignment with the earth changes. So really it touched on how we can navigate our awakening process, and that can feel like a whirlwind, and especially when we're trying to balance work, family responsibilities, and personal growth. We can find that we might experience physical challenges, it can be quite big physical challenges, or simply headaches, joint pains, or just feeling out of our body, or just overwhelmed. So this procedure really supports all of that, and it supports that we continue to keep coming into alignment with the earth changes. And we go into more detail about, well, what does that mean?
Yeah. And interestingly, like you mentioned right at the beginning of this particular episode about how we might be experiencing restless sleep, headaches, joint pain, as you just mentioned. And I have seen, well, we just went on a trip overseas, just in the last month, a notable amount of people saying, I've hurt my back, I've twisted my ankle, like every other person was like, oh, I've done something to my back. And I'm like, this is...
And it's interesting you point on that, because that was triggering the different topics I was covering. And with this procedure, really, with all energy, running energy, you want to preventatively care, right? So running energy, what you're doing is continually aligning your personal energy with what the planet is shifting in the planet and so forth. And through that realignment, what you're doing is mitigating the symptoms, and some you've touched on, right? But with this particular, I'm so passionate about the Earth and Body Magnetic Grid Alignment procedure, because it can really support emotional calm. We're feeling stressed, so it really supports emotional calm. It does support physical strength and alignment. So you want to try and not get those structural issues. If you've got those structural issues and you're going to the chiropractor, what this procedure supports is, well, a chiropractor has made a physical adjustment. This procedure will support you to hold that adjustment, right? And this procedure is great for grounding and stability. That's, I said, the psychological discourse that some people might be feeling. And naturally, obviously, it's supporting spiritual growth. It's really connecting us and deepening our intuition. So it's a really powerful procedure.
And, assuming that some of our listeners may be having a little bit of extra time over the Christmas break, maybe this is a time to go back, check that one out, and have a practice with it. The instructions are all there.
Absolutely.
This next episode I loved also. Seems like
we haven't found one yet.
No, I know. And super important. Just super important. Children of the new millennium. Can I tell you a little anecdote? When I was in my 20s, 30s, I used to say I don't want to have kids. The world's pretty messed up, and I think it would be really selfish to bring children into the world. I may have even said this in that particular podcast. And then it got to my late 30s, and I eventually had Louis when I was 40. And my thinking started to change to the next generation, the generation of children that we're bringing in right now are the change makers. They could be the ones that they're going to be the ones that are going to make the difference. So our role in nurturing them so that they can help to make those changes is super important.
Indeed. So we talked about what crystal children were and that they bring very unique gifts and are very pure, high frequency, encoded with a DNA of the new consciousness, the heart-based consciousness. They have extraordinary gifts. They have a deep connection to the energy and nature, even if it's not obvious. And they are definitely serving as a catalyst for parents, caregivers, to create positive change. So we covered in this defining characters of crystal children, why they are so connected to nature, crystals and earth energy, how their unique sensitivities impact them. And there's different types of crystal children that we touched on. And we provided some practical ways to help them thrive, including, making sure we're clearing and protecting their energy and their environment.
Yeah, brilliant. The next one, I feel like I need to open my window for this because the next one is elevate your being through words and sound. I don't know if you can hear that.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, beautiful. Can.
Cicadas.
Yeah.
And I remember you talking about when you were talking in this episode, and I said that sometimes when I'm walking in nature, I actually feel the bird song like vibrating in me, and you certainly can't avoid feeling the energy of the cicadas at the moment in my area. So the episode was
beautiful.
Elevate Your Being Through Words and Sound. What have you got to say about that?
Yeah, so the intention was to remind people, I think people know this, but to remind people that sound serve as a profound catalyst for healing and growth. You think of a beautiful piece of music, or you mentioned at the time, because I was going down the path of more meditative, more inner peace, and you then reminded me, but if I'm in the gym, I want a certain type of music to, boost my, correct.
Yeah.
So there is a place for all genre of music, and you really brought that into focus, which I thought was brilliant at the time. But this episode really touched on, how music and sound can support emotional release and healing. How it can support an empowerment through, we talked a bit about words as well, through language. Well, music is language, and how it can support our connection up. So I was talking about more of a spiritual type of music connecting us up. But, being in the gym or being somewhere you really feel as though you need a boost of energy, enthusiasm, joy, driving the car on a Monday morning school, it's all about bringing us back to joy. And when we're in our joy, in a peace, in a natural state, we're really connecting up to our higher consciousness, right? And so it's about, reminding ourselves, work with sound, to support greater harmony in your life, and whatever that music means, type of music means for you.
And nature in general, right? So sometimes when you buy meditation music, it's the babbling brook and the tweeting birds and the rustling of leaves, or, thankfully I have access to a lot of that, where we live, and that definitely brings a sense of calm.
Sound in nature, one of the most powerful forms of sound you can come to use. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Unlocking spiritual growth through affirmations and mantras. You gave me homework for this one. And, as I said, I kind of I've practiced, like each month I kind of had the topic that you'd spoken of front of mind, and the same goes for affirmations and mantras. And I actually yesterday or the day before started to reintroduce affirmations. I found this really helpful topic.
Yeah, and I guess the intention of this one, which is something I observe in myself and watch myself. I know it sounds like a strange thing, but it's something I have to practice what I preach. Why words matter. I mean, words hold immense creative power. So whether we're affirming for our worth, invoking divine assistance and guidance, or chanting Sanskrit type mantras, these practices can create a vibration that can really harmonize our inner world and foster healing and support our spiritual connection. So I touched on affirmations, which is a real favorite of mine, which you had some homework around. We talked briefly about invocations. These are short prayers that normally connecting you to a deity, and I chose Kuan Yin as an example. And I think in that podcast I mentioned, when I really, really look at it, mantras are my personal favorite, because mantras, and particularly Sanskrit mantras, are so pure. Sanskrit is such a pure language. When you listen to Sanskrit, and there's plenty of downloadable mantras available, it really brings me back into a balanced resonance really, really quickly. So I work with mantras a lot. I love affirmations. My favorite affirmation I want to share again today is positive abundance is flowing in every aspect of my life. And that just brings in people I need to meet, positive experiences. Yes, I might walk into a shop and something's discounted that I'm looking to buy. It's not necessarily about financial gain and winning the lotto, but it's definitely can pull that in, right?
Yep.
So that to me was another favorite podcast of mine.
Yeah, that was a great one. I really liked that too. I also like the next one, Animal Magic. And I know that this is one of your all-time favorite practices from Transference Healing, the Oracle, the Animal Magic Oracle, which was really great. And you basically, you showed us that there's a lot of, you can get a lot out of a deck of cards. Right?
So the central tool
out of one card,
is Animal Magic, which is a Transference Healing modality tool created by Alexis. If you love oracles, this is definitely a go-to deck. It has a lot of energy behind it, and I try to demonstrate how much information is behind one card by just focusing on the elephant. And I think you walked away going, oh my God, I don't think I remember all of that. And I think the point was, behind one of those cards, there's so much information and tools that we can work with, not only mastering on a personal level, but gaining insight to something going on in our life, and then the attributes of that animal, what we can embrace and what maybe the universe is bringing to us to embrace. And we talked about elephant magic, and that the basis of that is about unconditional love. And we talked to what does that really mean?
Yeah. And I think that one of the beauties of this particular practice is you have the cards in your hand. You can have them somewhere that's easy to access, and it's a simple practice of drawing a card maybe each day, or if you have a particular card you want to contemplate, then you can spend some time with it, but it just seems nice that you have that kind of physical thing to play with. And animals, like, it's always a bit playful, and
exactly,
it taps into like your imagination a little bit more.
And it was Alexis that beautifully put at some point, I don't know when it was, she said, if you draw an animal card and it's telling you you need to refine something in yourself, well, you're more likely to take it from an animal, aren't you, than a human. So she said there's a real
Less offensive.
subtle, it's less offensive. And to be honest, when I pull a card, I go, ooh, that card's come up a few times. There's something I need to look at in myself. Well, are you sort of more accepting of it because it's attached to a certain animal? I think, well, I really like that animal. I think I'll take that advice on board.
Yeah, for sure. And then we were into month 11 already. Elevate your home, elevate your life, which is another episode which gives us some real practical and pleasurable things that we can do in our home and in the spaces that we spend time in.
Yes, this came again, each time I come up with a topic, I normally figure it out just as I finish a podcast. Something comes to mind. I think, and it just felt like, well, we're talking about a lot of our personal energy for a large part of the year. It's like, well, I spend an awful lot of time clearing the energy in the house. I thought, well, a lot of people are doing this, but may not be consciously conscious what they're doing. And I thought, well, there's some really practical things we can do. And really the essence of this podcast was to explore how to create a high vibration environment that fosters peace, tranquility, balance, and supporting your well-being. And I think we provide some really practical examples that, lighting a candle, well, we all can do that, right? And there's some more sophisticated examples, but, we went from very simple, straightforward examples through to more, sophisticated, like burning resins and so forth. Yeah. Definitely worth looking at that one, because you'll be surprised what you're doing today and working more consciously in clearing your space and how you can do that, especially working with candles. Everyone loves a candle, but understanding how you can do that more consciously, you'll be surprised the shifts you can make in your environment, and that, there may be less sickness in the environment. That doesn't say it stops sickness. When someone needs to clear, they will clear, but it might move them through a process faster, as an example.
Yeah, brilliant. As we've talked through all 11 of those, it's been really good. It's actually a really good review probably for both of us. I know that you practice all of these things all of the time, and you've worked with transference healing for a long time. But yeah, it's been really good to get a review of these, and I'm definitely going to get the book out over the next little while and review some of them in more depth. Do you have any? I know we've sort of said along the way, I love this one, and I've said, I love that one. But were there any in particular that you thought, yeah, that was one of my...
Look, I have to say, anyone who's going through an awakening process or really moving down a more spiritual path where they're really looking to self-master, the top one for me is Chiron. Really understand what your Chiron is, right? We've all got a wounding. We've all got an Achilles heel. Work out what that is for you. And day to day, observe yourself and see yourself playing it out. And as we move through this decade, we're all going to be pushed more and more. And we're all going to be cornered into our Chiron to clear, right? So Chiron. Power of the word, power of sound, are absolute go-tos for me. I think more and more about what I say, how I say it. Observe, I said that a certain way. Could I have said that? But the power of the word, and as we lift our frequency, we need to be more conscious about what we're saying, how we're saying it. And that can have a positive ripple effect out to people. So if I had to pick two, it would be those. If I had to pick a third one, well, look, Dragon power.
Yeah.
Dragon power ultimately is about self-empowerment, self-mastery, mastering in the self and truly taking that spiritual ascension process into self-mastery.
My favorites, I definitely love the affirmations one, because you gave me the homework and I did it diligently, because that's the kind of gal I am. And I definitely noticed a difference over the few weeks that I was saying my affirmations in the shower. And I love the practicality of it, that I was able to do it wherever I was, in the shower, in the car, in my head, out loud. I think the dog, when I took her for a walk in the morning, probably thought I was a weirdo, saying it out loud on the nature tracks.
The dog was probably with you, saying it in their own mind.
She's like, is there anyone else here? Is she talking to me? I loved Elevate Your Home, Elevate Your Life, just because of the simplicity again. I love things where I can physically take action, and having crystals, burning incense, but having candles, they're all really easy things that I can integrate into my routines, my life. And everyone likes it. Everyone loves it when there's some incense burning or there's a candle burning. It just makes you feel good. So I really like that. They're probably my two faves, I reckon.
Wonderful. That's good. Well, look, I think over the year there's something there for everyone.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people to surrender to their higher self and maybe go through the listing and almost do a divination.
Yes.
To do a divination, you just run your hand down the screen and say, where does you stop? Now, obviously, you have to scroll a bit because we've got a few. And wherever you stop, or naturally stop, should I say, you go and listen to that one. And this is then practicing that fifth dimension, living a fifth dimensional consciousness. You're not working from the mental plane. You're working and connecting from your higher self and working out, what do I really need for my highest good?
Amazing.
We did it.
Oh, we did it. Countdown. We did it. Is there anything else you want to close with?
I just want to say thanks, Nadine. It's been absolute joy and pleasure connecting with you. You bring something left to center always to the podcast, and I think that's been important. And I just want to say thank you very much indeed for working with me this year.
Yeah, and thank you. Like, you've obviously taken a lot of time and committed to the process to share your insights with the listeners over the last 12 months. So we really appreciate your contribution to the podcast, Laverne, and wish you all the best for 2025.
Yes, and the same to you, Nadine.
All right, you take care. We'll speak to you in
2025.
2025 is just around the corner.
It's just around the corner.
All right, Laverne. Till next time.
Till next time.